Believe it or not, attempting to express coincidence, for which in Spanish we would use también and tampoco, is a common point of frustration for many English learners. And this is true even among a lot of advanced learners. If it's true for you, then let's try to fix that once and for all right now. Maybe you have a problem with this and you don't even know it. And even if you don't have any problems with it, let's just reinforce things to make sure you never do. Every day we talk to people and we share facts and opinions about our lives and experiences. And to put this into practice, you could say just about anything.
I don't particularly prefer cold leftover menudo that's been sitting in the fridge for several days.
And every now and then, your facts or opinions coincide with those of the person you're talking to. This is very common, in fact, when you're talking about menudo. And the person could respond with something very simple like, yeah, me too. Well, so far so good, right? Yeah, except for the little detail that it's wrong. Now you might want to argue, what's the big deal? I mean, people are going to understand me anyway, right? Even if I say, yeah, me too. Well, you may have a point. And I guess then if you say, a mí no me gusta el menudo, I could respond, pues sí, a mí también. And everyone will be okay with that, right? After all, no one should expect much from a foreigner, right? So if you don't want to get laughed at, and, well, let's just be honest, nobody's really going to laugh at you. But if you feel like you're being laughed at, then it doesn't matter. You might as well be being laughed at. And that's no fun. That's a problem that you need to fix. So why isn't it correct? Why can't we just say, me too? It should be just simple. Where did we get the idea that we could say, me too? Well, it probably came from some very boring class at some point in the past where somebody explained that whenever we want to express agreement, we always say, me too. Or at least that's what we thought we heard, and that's what stuck with us for a long time. But if this has happened to you, or is true for you, then it's a very serious issue that must be cleared up and taken care of before you end up being a very sad and lonely person in a cruel world of people who speak better than you do. So let's just take a look at this real quick. If you want to express yo también, we have 3 ways you can do it in English. And the first one is simply me too. So before you get crazy and say, what? We just talked about how you can't do that. There it is. Stupid professor guy, what's he trying to do? You can say me too sometimes. There's nothing wrong with it, as long as you're trying to express yo también. And we have 2 other ways to express that. We can say so do I, and we also have I do too. So we have those 3 ways to express yo también. And none of them is more important or more formal than the other one. 3 different ways you can say it. To the right we have over here tampoco. And there are 3 ways also you can express that. And you can say me neither, for example. And this is where you do not want to confuse with me too. So you want to say yo tampoco, you say me neither. 2 other ways are neither do I and I don't either. Now, if you can learn to use all of those interchangeably in any conversation that you might have, the world is going to be just a little bit less cold and cruel for you. But what about, why is that do in the parentheses? If you had that question, that is a very good question. And let's take a look at that for a second. Do in the parentheses. It's there because do is an auxiliary. And when we want to express these yo tambiéns or yo tampocos in English, we have to use the auxiliary that corresponds with what was said in the original sentence. And you're like, holy crap, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Well, just think about the auxiliaries. You have be, which is always going to be am, is, are, was, and were. You have do, which you're going to use for sentences that didn't have an auxiliary in the first place, like I like chetos. Well, so do I. Right? Who doesn't? And then you have, which is going to have the form of have, has, or had. And then you have the modal auxiliaries, which are can, could, will, would, should, must, may, and might. Of all of those, might is the one that you probably will never use, but all of the rest of these can be used very commonly in expressions of también or tampoco in English. Here you can see a few of those. You can identify the auxiliary in these statements, and you will see that the expression that agrees with that person or that coincides with that person uses the same auxiliary. And that's the entire explanation in a nutshell. If I have totally failed with this and left you far more confused than you ever were before, please do not hesitate to ask me about this in the next class and make sure that we get this cleared up. But hopefully it has been helpful.